Okay, this will be part 2 of the bead rolling and coloring with packaging material. So a couple of things that you'll need for this part of the tutorial are, of course, your beads that you've already rolled out of cardboard. We're going to need some sort of a glue. I use this decoupage glue, and I actually use it at about a 50-50 ratio, maybe just a little bit more decoupage glue mixed with water just to thin it up, and I'll show you why in a minute. You're also going to need some varnish. I just use regular artist varnish. I don't really have a preference. This happens to be what I'm using this time around. To color your beads before we even get to the glue or the varnish, you'll need some food coloring, a little bit of water, a cup to do your mixing, and I have a very nasty habit here, so you'll see a lot of these in this tutorial. And then you'll need something to string your beads on. This is what I use. I have fishing string, and then to stop the beads from falling off, I just put on a little pop tab, the kind that come on your soup cans. They don't make very pretty jewelry, but they're very useful for keeping your beads on the string. Okay, and then of course you'll need a bead drawing box. Let me show you mine really quickly. Excuse how ugly it is. I use it very often, and it's got all kinds of stuff decoupaged and varnished up inside of it. So this is my box, and on the sides I've cut these little tabs and slots, same number on each side, and then I'll show you how I use it when we get to this part, but you'll need a box that will fit your fishing string to have it strung from side to side. Really easy to make and cheap too. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is color our beads. So you're going to take your beading string and bead a few beads on it. I'm just going to do a few for the interest of time. One thing to keep in mind is when you're beading beads, you'll want to put, obviously everything that's on this string is going to be the same color. So just keep that in mind. And you also don't want to fill up your beading string. You can fill it more than this for sure, but when you have put this into your beading box, you're going to need space to space them out, especially after you put your glue and your varnish on so they don't stick together. So just keep that in mind. You'll learn how much you can put on there and how much you can't with a little bit of experience. So on to the coloring. So take your Starbucks cup or whatever other cup that you have from fast food or whatever. Put in, 2 to 3 drops of food coloring. Of course, if you're doing a lot of beads, you'll put more than that in. And then you're going to add some water. And the water is really just to make it so that the coloring will will swirl nicely around your beads, because that won't do much of anything. Of course, if you want really light blue, let's say I've just added a little bit of water, and it's a really dark color blue. But if you want it to make a lighter blue color, just add a lot more water. I just want to urge you that if you're going to try to darken the color of your beads, just use more food coloring. Don't try to let it sit in your water for a longer period of time, thinking that that will make it darker. These are paper, and if you keep it in there too long, especially without any kind of glaze on it yet, you'll ruin them. So more food coloring, not more time. Alright, hold both ends of your string, drop it to the bottom of your cup, and then just swirl. And you're going to keep swirling until you completely coat your beads. Give it a little tap there. I'm going to grab my bead drawing box up here. Step out of the way here. So with your bead drawing box, you're going to drop one end and pull it taut so that your pop tab is right up against the box. And then you're going to take the other end all the way down to the other side, and you're going to wrap it around one of the tabs. So through 2 slots, and just keep going around in circles so that you can keep it nice and taut in there. 2 or 3 times should be enough. Okay. And then I let these dry overnight. They'll probably be drier sooner than that, but you just really want to make sure that all the water has left the beads before you start your coating process. So set this to the side and let it dry overnight. Of course, you'll have lots more beads in there. So fast forward 24 hours and I have my colored beads that aren't yet coated. So we're going to put it in the decoupage glue. Now I've already pre-measured. Like I said, it's about a 50-50 measure. You want it to be not as runny as water, but you really want it to have a good viscosity to it, a nice loose one, so that it will coat your beads. Now you'll see a lot of tutorials that will put your beads on an individual toothpick and have you paint them by hand. And when I first started doing paper beads a year ago, I used to paint by hand, although I didn't do them on individual toothpicks. But I like this way much better for a couple of reasons. A, it's much quicker, but B, it also coats the inside of your bead, which you can't really do with a paintbrush when you're looking at a toothpick size hole. So into the cup it goes, and the same thing as when you were coloring it. Give it a good swirl. Make sure you coat the beads completely. Okay. Let it drip a little bit. Definitely you can bang it around a bit, and this is, I always bang mine on the cup, and then I also bang it in my bead box. Otherwise you get these horrible drips that can really dry ugly on your beads if it doesn't all drip off. So go ahead and grab your bead drying box again. Now this one, give it a little shake, pull it nice and taut. Now when you're doing your glue and your varnish, you really want to make sure it's straight, because you're going to separate your beads, and if you have any kind of bend to it, everything will fall towards the center, and you really want to make sure they stay separated so they don't stick together. So just as you're tightening this, make sure you're giving it a good pull. Tie it around just a couple of times. Okay, and then you want to separate your beads. I just usually use a skewer to do that. You know, they can be close together if you have a lot of beads on there, but just enough room that you have space to spin them. And every 15 minutes or so, like at 15, I usually do it 15, 30, and 45 minutes, I'll come back and move my beads along the string so that the glue inside doesn't keep your beads stuck to your string. I've lost a few beads that way, and I still do because I don't turn them quickly enough, but you need to keep turning your beads. This is also a really good time. These ones look okay, but I'm going to see if I can show you on this one. When you're doing the adhesive layer, probably not the first time around, but like in 15 minutes when it starts to dry and it's not so wet, these beads that are starting to come undone where the adhesive is sort of lifted, if you give it a good push when that adhesive is on, after about 15 minutes, it'll stick for you. So it's a good time to check your beads and make sure all your seams are the way they need to be, that they're nice and secure. These all look pretty good. Once you have the varnish on, even if you have something that looks like this, it'll be secure, but you'll have this funny little flap. So you want to go ahead and check those, otherwise you're going to lose that bead. Okay, enough about that. Glue, about an hour and a half to 2 hours to dry. It doesn't have to be perfectly dry like with the water. Just set it to the side to dry. And then you're going to do the exact same thing with your varnish. I don't weaken my varnish. This is exactly how it came out of the container, but you basically do the same thing. So you're going to take, I have a row of black ones here, and each time you put them in the glue, you just want to make sure you run through and make sure that your beads aren't stuck to the string. Okay. And then same exact thing, just drop it into the varnish. Now this food coloring, you really want to make sure that this is covered, because the food coloring will run onto your clothes and your hands if it's not completely coated. So with the adhesive and the varnish, just be real careful. Alright, so again, give it another bang around in your box. Get it set. And this is going to be the exact same thing when you are, oops, when you're waiting for it to dry at 15, 30, and 45 minutes, make sure you're turning those. You might even do it a little bit sooner than 15 minutes, just in case. So you have a lot of drips on mine. I know you can't see it from there, but it's okay to run your chopstick under there or your skewer. Otherwise, it'll just dry really ugly. So get those separated. Check your seams, everything looks good. And then you'll put this aside and let it dry. I usually let mine cure for about 24 hours. It's usually dry before that, but you just want to make sure that you have a good clean seal on it. And then when you're all done, you just simply remove them and you're left with these beautiful shiny cardboard beads that you can make jewelry out of, but I'm looking at these reds and greens and thinking what really great decorations they would make on packages at Christmas time, scrapbooking, you know, just add some beads and head pins and life is good. Let me just show you this real quick. So this is what I meant by the amount of water that you add. So this one here had a lot of water. It's the same color of food coloring, but this one turned out more pink and this one came out more red. So that's it on my bead making saga for my leftover cardboard from my chunky beads. I'd love to see what you're making with these. If you decide to make these, post a link below to your pictures and have fun.